In this video I will be demonstrating this wire woven bale with a feature stone. This design can actually be used as a main component of a pendant. Here I have just added a small glass bead. Add a pendant and you have a decorative bale for your wire wrapped creations. For this design you will need a small stone. Either a round domed cabochon or faceted stone will work. The measurements in this video are for stones that are 5/8 of an inch or 7 mm in diameter. For larger or smaller stones, adjust the measurements as required. I need something round that is just slightly smaller than my stone, so preferably 6 mm, but my pliers go from 5 mm to 7 mm. I will have to use the 7 mm and make a slight adjustment to the first loop. My first base wire is 6 inches or 15 centimeters. At the middle point of the wire, I bend around the pliers at the chosen size to create a loop. I make a mark at the centre of the loop at the top where the wires cross. As I know that the loop will be slightly too big, I place my pliers a small distance before the marks and bend the wires upwards. This will adjust the loop to a smaller size. Test the size of your loop by sitting your stone inside it. Most of the stone should still be visible, but it shouldn't fall through the loop. This is just a small offcut of weaving wire. I am using 30 gauge to weave with. This piece is approximately 3 inches. I start with the weaving wire between the wires at the top of the loop. You can simply wrap both wires together, but I will add an optional pattern. Wrap twice around both wires, wrap once around each wire individually, repeat a couple more times. Wrap the wires for 1/8 of an inch. Separate the wires. I will now bend these wires around my pliers to make another loop. This time the loop should be slightly smaller than the first loop, so I'm using the 5mm setting. Make a mark where the wires cross. Bend the wires upwards. This is another offcut of weaving wire. This one is approximately 5 inches. Start with a weaving wire between the wires at the top of the loop. Wrap a couple of times around both wires. I then wrap once around each wire individually. Remove the wire tail, leaving the long end intact. Hold the pliers at the top of the larger loop. Bend the wire so that the smaller loop sits directly under the larger loop. Place the stone into position and push the wires down to make sure that the stone is clamped tightly between the two loops. Make sure that the smaller loop is sitting centrally to the back of the stone. To fully secure the stone, take the weaving wire and wrap around the top loop and then around one of the straight wires. For symmetry, repeat on the other side with the other straight wire. To secure the weaving wire, I am taking it to the back of the stone and wrapping it a couple of times around the back loop. Remove the excess. Take each of the straight wires and bend them upwards along the side of the stone. If you are using a faceted stone, it is wrapped in exactly the same way. I have two 20 gauge wires of 5 inches in length. I have marked the centre mark on each wire. I take the first wire and use the largest setting on my pliers to make a bend at the centre point. Bend the wires to an angle that matches the stone wire. Take the other wire and bend it at the centre point using the smallest setting on my pliers. The angle should match the others. Find the middle point of the weaving wire. My wire is 60 inches in length. If you're choosing to use a thicker weaving wire, it won't need to be quite as long. Take the middle wire. Start wrapping from the centre point of the base wire and the centre point of the weaving wire. Wrap 12 times around the base wire. Flip the wire over and repeat from the other end using the other half of the weaving wire. Reduce the amount of rotations if using a thicker wire. When placing the stone wire in position, the weave should start where the wires straighten out alongside the stone. Wrap twice around both wires. Wrap twice around just the outer wire. Wrap twice around both wires. Repeat on the other side. Place the third wire into position. Wrap twice around the middle and outer wires. Wrap twice around the middle and inner wires. Repeat the pattern a couple more times. Repeat on the other side. Continue weaving on both sides. I have woven up to approximately 1/8 of an inch above the stone. Take the inner wires and bend them inwards. Measure the distance from where these wires are bent to the middle wire where it sits beneath the stone. The wires should cross over each other at approximately the same distance from where they bend inwards. Cut the wires just before the point where they meet. I am going to use the flat part of the base of my round nose pliers to flatten out the tip of each wire. This part of the pliers exert a surprising amount of pressure, more than just using my flat nose pliers. I am using a file to remove the sharp corners. I will now bend just the very tip of each wire slightly downwards. Bend the middle wires following the inner wires and then bend them upwards at the point where they will meet. Follow with the outer wires. Continue weaving the wires together using the same 2-2 pattern. You can weave up to quite close to the end of the inner wire. The flattening and the bend will prevent the weaving wires from slipping off the end. I will now weave together the remaining pairs of wires up to the point where they meet. Wrap twice around just the inner wire, wrap twice around both, and repeat. Take one of the weaving wires and wrap twice around both of the inner wires to connect both sides. Now go back to the pair and wrap twice around both wires and then twice around the inner wire. Repeat with the other weaving wire and the other pairs. A good tip for finishing the weaving wires and eliminating any pesky wire ends. Take the weaving wire and find a space between the completed weave where you can thread the weaving wire between the base wires. This will secure the ends of the weaving wires with them trapped between the other wires. I like to use something round like this small screwdriver to help shape the bale. Place it at the widest point and bend the wires over it. At the back, bend the remaining wires outwards. Bend the two longer wires to the front. I am going to thread the wires through the areas where the bends in the stone wire make two small gaps. I am cutting the wires right where they exit the gap so that the cut ends can be placed underneath the same wire. With the remaining wires, I am going to trim them shorter and then bend them into a small loop. Ensure that the cut ends are pushed down and can't be felt. You can use a jump ring to add top drilled stones or pendants to create your finished pendant. You can also add a finished pendant or side drilled item to the bale during the making as you add the third wire. Attach the wire to one side. Before attaching the other side, slide the item into position. Now continue the bale as instructed.